But first, let's get to a potential major development in Newcastle's project to become one of the biggest clubs in the world following their Saudi takeover. Our colleagues at Sky Italy are reporting that Brendan Rodgers is their #1 target to take over as manager. Well, let's get more on this. We can go live to Keith Downey, who's at James's Park for us. Keith, we're working you hard. What more can you tell us?
Yeah, Joe, thanks very much and welcome to St James's Park this evening on Wednesday, almost exactly a week, well, it'll be exactly a week tomorrow since the takeover was pushed through, exactly a week since those stories started emerging that the takeover was in the offing. And well, we've certainly moved on in terms of what we've been reporting since then. I think important to stress there, Joe, that this report has come from Sky Italy and not from the ground here in Newcastle, but they are saying that Brendan Rodgers would be high on the list of the new Newcastle United owners should they part company with Steve Bruce. Of course, Brendan Rodgers has done an unbelievable job at Leicester. He did so with Celtic as well, and Gianluca Di Marzio, who's the renowned expert in football transfers over in Milan, has said that he is or will be Newcastle's #1 choice. It would cost €16 million, he says, to get Brendan Rodgers out of his Leicester City contract. He also says that wouldn't be a problem to the owners here at Newcastle United. I think, though, Joe, important to stress at this point, a lot of names being bandied around, and a lot of them have been sort of mentioned to me in the last 24 to 48 hours. It's pretty much open season at the moment, isn't it? Everyone wants a piece of Newcastle United. Everyone really would be interested in joining the club, which has now in the last week become essentially the richest club in the world. But Sky Italy pinning their colours to the mast there and saying that Newcastle very much interested in Brendan Rodgers. When you look at his profile, though, and what he has done, I think his profile would fit the bill here in terms of what the owners would look for. If you're asking me to answer that, I would say it's very, very early days. They still have a manager in situ in the shape of Steve Bruce, and I think what the new owners want first is to provide clarity on Steve Bruce's situation before they then go to approach any other managers. There's not too many managers with a lot of experience available without clubs. Brendan Rodgers definitely has that experience, and he's at Leicester City. You could imagine him fitting the profile here, but I've got to say, I think it's a little bit further down the line. I think also the club want to appoint a sporting director first, and that would make sense before they bring in a head coach.
And Keith, you have already alluded to it there, but I mean, if you are Steve Bruce tonight, where does that leave him?
Yeah, Joe, I mean, you have to feel for Steve Bruce. I've been saying that for much of the day. Here we are standing talking about Brendan Rodgers potentially being a replacement for him while he's still the manager of Newcastle United. Let's state the facts here. He took training on Monday, he took training on Tuesday, he took training again today, 3 days in a row. Despite that, I still expect him to be relieved of his duties, and I would be surprised if he was in the dugout against Tottenham Hotspur for that first match under the new regime on Sunday. Ironically, Joe, it would be his 1000th match as a manager, which kind of encapsulates the experience he's amassed over his years in football. So what would have been a day of celebration for him? We're expecting him not to be in the dugout, but you have to say, the longer this goes on and the longer there's no clarity and there's that kind of issue over his head as to whether he will be here or not, the longer that goes on, the more Steve Bruce will think, hang on, I've got a chance here of taking Newcastle forward. He'll have pitched that to the owners when he met him on Monday for the very first time up at the club's training ground. It was a very informal meeting, but I'm told that the new consortium, Amanda Staveley and her husband, who were representing the consortium on Monday, got his views. They wanted to ask him what he thought about the squad, what he thought about the club moving forward, and how he thought they could improve in the weeks and months ahead. And the longer it goes on, the more Steve Bruce will think he can be that man. I think he thinks that anyway. I mean, any manager will think that they can succeed with the riches that will be available to spend in the January and next summer transfer window. But as we stand here, the days are ticking on. I feel like I've been saying the same thing for 3 days in a row. He still is the manager, and although I expect him not to be the manager on Sunday, he still needs to go about business as he normally does. And I'm sure he'll be as professional as he can. As I say, took training the last 3 days. The players are off tomorrow. That gives them a little bit of wriggle room, the consortium, if they're to make a decision later on tonight or tomorrow. to then give who is set to take over on Friday and Saturday to work with the team. But very uncertain times here, Joe, here at Newcastle United. Lots of speculation, lots of uncertainty circulating, and then when you hear names like Brendan Rodgers brought into the equation as well, makes it even more so.
Yeah, absolutely. Keith, for now, thank you. Yeah, and Keith touched on it there. There's also news on a potential sporting director in Newcastle. We can get more on this. We can go live to our reporter, Gary Cottrell. And Gary, you're at Watford as you've been speaking to Claudio Ranieri today. But what can you tell us about Newcastle?
Yeah. While I was here, I heard that obviously Newcastle are going to be the kind of club that will want a sporting director. There's a lot going on there, isn't there, as Keith alluded to, for the new ownership, looking at the stadium, looking at the training ground, looking at the squad, looking to find potentially, if Steve Bruce does leave, a new head coach. But certainly they are in the market for a sporting director. Some names have been mentioned, but I am told that Luis Campos, look him up on your search engines if you don't know of him already. There's hardly anybody anywhere who's written articles about him, who's worked with him, who's got a bad word to say about him. He is a top sporting director, and I understand that he's in the frame for the Newcastle United job. Since working with Jose Mourinho at Real Madrid as an analyst and a scout, he went off to Monaco in 2013, turned Monaco into French title winners, and then left there and went to Lille, who obviously last season beat PSG to the French title. Only two clubs in the last 9 seasons have beaten PSG to the title in France, and Luis Campos was the man behind both of them, Monaco and then Lille. But it's not just the silverware, which of course Newcastle fans are desperate for, which of course Newcastle's new ownership are desperate for. It's about the model, it's about sustainability, which is also what the new owners of Newcastle want. Despite all their billions, they need to run the club in a financially sound way, and Luis Campos certainly does that, because he finds players for virtually nothing, sometimes for nothing, and then turns them into superstars and sells them on. Over 500 million pounds worth of profit in players he's made in the last 7 to 8 years. I'm going to read out some of the names that he's found and then sold on, because there's just so many. Kylian Mbappe, he got for nothing. He sold for, well, we know what he sold for. Bernardo Silva, Fabinho, Anthony Martial, Thomas Lemar, Gabriel, Nicolas Pepe, both to Arsenal for big profit. James Rodriguez. So these are the kind of players that he finds and turns into stars and then sells on. Newcastle fans would want some of those players that he finds to stay at the club. But of course, if he can manage to sell those players and still win titles, which he did at Lille and Monaco, that would certainly be a fit for the new, ambitious Newcastle. As I say, it's very early days. It's still a very early search. But Luis Campos, a big sporting director with a big reputation, in the eyesight and in the thinking of Newcastle United.